Tell you what, it's good to see these three men on the screen, especially that man on the right. And that haircut is absolutely peaking right now. How good is that? Right side of his head. Good to see Payne Haas back, and anyone that owns Lucy is a welcome addition. Not a welcome addition if you brought in Alex Seyfarth, but we're going to go through round 10 team list. I can't believe we're this far through the season already. Almost up to halfway now and getting much closer to Origin. So we will speak about that and the types of guys you want to be bringing into your side in this week. But in this one here, we're going to be going through just a quick comment on each of the certain individual players that are definitely important or interesting to think about this week. And on the dog side of thing, Matty Burton is obviously a clear man to target this week. If you're needing someone in the centre or the halves position, he's coming into his own after last week. Is there a chance that it's a one hit wonder? Definitely. But he does come up against some easier teams, and he won't be playing Origin, so it's a really nice time to take that punt. Obviously, every trade-in's a risk, so you got to weigh up that, and if you think it's worth it at his cheaper price point, then he's a good one to pick up. We'll speak about him in the buy, hold, sell anyway. In terms of guys lower down the list, Jackson's probably a good chance of getting back to bigger minutes this week, but again, don't count on it. Just say that there's a decent chance of that. If we're going a little bit lower, I think you got to keep Maxi King. He's obviously scoring well enough to stay in your side. On the Knights side of the ball, nothing changes too much. We have Adam Clune back in the 7. Texas is going to play 6 again, and Crossland back to 14. So we don't see Kurt Mann still. And Mitch Barnett comes back into the 11 role. We still have no Frizzell this week. I think Randall's still someone you can hold. Crossland is a great chance of playing some middle, along with the other interchange guys. Like the only potential there is Crossland plays 9. He played 7 last week, and that's why that Randall was going to play the 80. So something to think about there. But still, I think Randall's a hold if you're able to. Leo Thompson you can hold as well. He's get another crack in the 13 to at least get that 30 minutes. And some decent points from that. So not enough to, not low enough minutes to make you lose money anyway on him. All right, guys like Tuipulotu, I think you can hold off on now. Last week was the week to get him. Being Travojevic, you'll have that spot for the interim, but how long will that be? Will he have enough time to make money? I'm not exactly sure, but we'll focus on him a little bit in another video as well. Kovalar's making some very slow cash. We need a nice little bump up from him. A 30 or 40 would be terrific there. Heading into this week, we got Alkawatu in there. We got Bullimore in 12, so I wouldn't be looking at Bully. Just a bit of a really good 1 week, I'd say, for him. Broncos side of the ball, you need a really good game from Tamari Martin after his slower game last week, that's for sure. So we'll need to bump that up. Reynolds obviously a solid option if you need a half through the Origin period as well. And we still see Billy Walters in the 9, so you can give another crack there. I don't think he's an urgent trade out. Obviously the 10's not great, but it is what it is, and the up and down. The 46 obviously helps him out a little bit to stop him from losing too much cash, but we'd definitely need a 30 odd from him this week. Otherwise, we're going to lose a little bit off that 300k price point. Paddy Carrigan we'll speak about as well in another video, but I definitely think he's a great option. His scoring has been incredible this year, and I think he can continue to do that. Payne Haas is back, so slot him back into your side. If you trade him out for that 1 week injury, I feel sorry for you. We've still got a lot of games. We've still got, 3 games until Origin anyway, so that's that. Hetherington is into the interchange bench again, so he'll probably lose 5 to 10 minutes there. He was playing around that 30 mark anyway on the interchange, so in that role, he was actually scoring better than he was in the starting role, so however you want to see that is how you want to see it. Warriors versus the Rabbitohs there on the Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m, so this will be a fun one. Hopefully the Warriors can bounce back, and some of these guys on their back 7 they can do all right. We lose Rocco Berry, which is interesting. He's back in the reserves after probably a better game than the majority of their outside backs had last week. If you're sticking with Darcy, he gets if you picked him up, he gets another shot. And Jazz Savanga keeps the 13 role, so worked out pretty well for this week that our man Tohu Harris comes back into the 12 role, and he's someone we'll speak about coming into this week. But he, just in a general thought, I do like him better in the 13 role, but I think it's probably a smarter idea for him to come back on an edge. Probably a little bit less work. Obviously, his numbers will still be really high. It's Harris, but won't have to do as much on that edge, and just hopefully just run straight lines and tackle hard on that edge there. So that's the hope and theory for Tohu, that he can come back nice and smoothly without any injuries after a long layoff. So welcome back to him. It's great to see him in that Warriors side, and he's going to improve them massively. And obviously when you get the other boys back as well, who are currently not on the reserves there with Joshy Curran, then that's really going to shore up that middle for the Warriors. And if we're looking on the Rabbitohs side, we do lose Isaiah Tass, so unfortunately gets pushed back to the reserves after an average week when, I suppose the entire team had an average week. So how you judge that off the one when you bring in Jackson Paulo, not exactly sure, but yeah, it was definitely a risk. We spoke about it, but if he was managed, if he was able to keep that spot, he was going to get some decent scores. And unfortunately, that one bad score and the one bad game kicks him out of the side, and he should get an opportunity at some point, especially if Graham goes to Origin, for example. But yeah, that remains to be seen at this point. Unfortunately, if you brought him in, my head-to-head team did, so we'll take that down as an L. But thankfully, it wasn't too expensive, so it's not the biggest issue. You see a lot of the top of teams at the moment with Davi Moale, with Vialea, these types of things. Or you can see our people squad have those types of guys. So it's not the worst thing in the world to use him as a cash out to bring in someone else, but not ideal at the same time. I've still got Walker and Ilias in our halves there. Ilias is definitely a hold at this point. And in terms of the forwards, you obviously got Cook in there. Moale keeps his spot. And Cody Nikorima heads to the bench. So very interesting how that's going to work. And my thoughts generally, I think he's going to come on as a little bit of a middle this week. We lose Cam Murray, unfortunately. It looks like a 3 to 4 week injury. He'll be out through Origin as well. So he's probably a trade out of that price. It's very hard to hold him at over 900k. So Jaira gets a chance at number 13, which is going to be very, very similar to what he's played over the years. So just be aware of that scoring, really just how he's played in terms of the start of this season, the first 9 rounds has been a bit on the edge and then mainly through the middle. So he'll probably get around 50 through the middle. I doubt he's going to get the real big minutes that Murray was. And they've got Cody Nikorima to play a bit of a lock, role through that middle as well. And you use guys like Knight, Havili is a little bit of, and Nikorima is a bit of 9 cover as well if they need it. And Davi through the middle, but he's not going to be playing big minutes. Knight hasn't been playing big minutes either, so I'm assuming they'll use those 3 through the middle, and then Nikorima will spell Arrow for about that 30 minutes to start us off. So that's my theory on the forwards there for the Rabbitohs there. And Host will get some bigger minutes, but he's been up and down in his scoring over the years. Okay, Titans v the Dragons, and we see Jaden Campbell come back into the 1 jersey, Brimson back into the 6. So yeah, Brimo's been playing solidly at 1. Not that the Titans been playing great, but that's that there. We see pretty much the same for the rest of the guys. Isaac Liu is in that 11 role as well. If you're holding guys like Aaron Clark, I think it's pretty much time to move them on. Both for more, you can hold or trade, up to you on that one. Very similar on the side of the Dragons. We see Ben Hunt in there at 7, and is this the week you hold on to him and he gets an 80 or 90? It's up against the Titans. It's probably the safest week to try and do that. But I can also understand why you'd look to move him on. He just hasn't been scoring well enough, and that 13 last week really hurts. But before that, he was 47, 49, 46, that kind of realm, which is not great, but it's a base, right? When you're coming up against the Titans, he doesn't have anyone to really steamroll him in the outside backs. They've got a couple of decent guys, but their edge forwards, for example, aren't going to steamroll him and help him miss 9 tackles, I hope. But hopefully he can get a bunch of attacking stats and potentially a try himself. Still looking at the other guys in their forwards, I don't think there's anyone of note to speak about. Storm v the Panthers on a Saturday night. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Can't wait for this one. We lose Pap, and unfortunately he's going to be a sell. We'll speak about him further, but he's definitely a sell this week with a 4 to 6 week injury, potential for Origin, which he probably won't make now, which is unfortunate. But yeah, is what it is with that one. But we see Nick Meaney go back to 1, and I think he's probably a little bit too expensive right now to be able to pick him up as an option in your side. Yes, it's going to be short term. Yes, he's going to be kicking goals, but they do have the Panthers this week, which will be a closer game. And obviously from there, it's going to get a little bit easier for him. And he'll have that spot for a fair while. But can he make 100k, or can he score well enough in that time to justify it? Is he as good as someone like Ruben Garrick, who played the 1 jersey, when they had Tommy out, but they were flying, the Manly boys. He played a bit of 1 jersey, did really well on the wing, for example. Is that going to happen in the Storm side? I'm not exactly sure, but I imagine some people will pick him up. I've seen a few of the Facebook posts at the moment of teams there bringing in Nick Meaney. So that's that there with Nick. Xavier Coates, I think, still a hold. Going to be a tougher game for him this week. I doubt he's going to score well. So up to you if you think that, I don't want to copy his low score this week, potential low score, I should say, then it is a week to trade him out. But if you do hold him, that's fine also. Munster, Hughes, Grant, all continue to be great options, and just continue to hold them. We can make a decision on what you want to do with them heading into Origin on round 13. Don't make a decision on them beforehand. I think if you're holding Hughes that whole time, you're holding him through the bye period as well. Josh King, continue to hold him as well. Brandon Smith, the up and down nature as well. We need a couple of consistency scores from him for me to personally pick him up. up to you how you want to play that one. On the Panthers side, we have Taylor May still, Isaac Tungo, and Crichton. All three just holds now. You've held this long, just continue doing so. Cleary looking for a bounce back game for him. He is usually very, very good in these types of matchups against the big sides. But obviously with the reduction in kick meters, that was always something that saved him in previous years against good sides. But he is someone that steps up in these types of games. And after a loss last week, I'm expecting a nice bounce back from them. And with Paps out for the Storm, I could see a potential loss on the horizon for them. And that's probably against the Panthers, which makes a lot of sense. Isaiah Yeo continues to score well. We have Moses Leod is obviously back last week, and he'll continue to play in that role. And the interchange is what it is with Lane. You just continue holding him. All right, we finish with the Sunday games there. So Sharks v the Raiders, and Nico Hines goes back to 1. I've heard a bunch of people say, "Oh, trade him out. He's going to lose all this cash." But very, very silly, I think, if you decide to do that. He's someone that we probably look to hold all year. There might be other guys that you trade over Origin who are playing Origin that are probably a little bit less important in the fantasy game this year, with Nico being, as a bunch of people have said, last year's Cleary, for example. And there's no doubt of we can, there's no way we can say that he's not averaging over 70. So Nico's great. He's going to score well at 1. He's still going to kick goals. He'll be fine. Up against the Raiders as well, he could have a field day. You've seen what Pap's done against a bunch of these lower teams, for example. So Nico could do the same thing there. And his passing is going to be great at the back there. They're obviously going to miss Kennedy with the suspension, but they'll be fine this week. Trindle does the job. Moylan will be fine. Trindle obviously scored well over the next few weeks as well, so definitely an interesting potential option. But for the amount of weeks, is it worth it? I'm not exactly sure. And with the chance of Nico playing Origin, does he continue keeping that spot? Obviously, the majority of the kick meters and in a team that's going well. Very, very interesting. But we'll speak about him a little bit later as well. Teague Walton coming off a big one, so you can keep him in your side. We see McInnes back in 14, so it'll be interesting to see if Finucane comes into the forward pack again and McInnes into 13. But I think it's getting closer to that time where you could potentially pick up Cam McInnes. On the Raiders side of things, we still obviously see Whiten out for one more week, and a few people mentioned to me about Schneider might not keep his spot all the way to 13, and that's completely fair. With Paps being out now, there's still a decent chance that Whiten keeps his spot in number 14. Obviously, there's some injuries that could come further, so Nico Hines would be the other option, obviously. And will there be injuries in the halves? Will there be injuries at fullback? Will there be injuries on the bench in general? Like these types of players that are going to be making the squads, is anything going to happen with that? Is it going to be suspensions? There's a few things obviously to think about, and there's a very, very good chance that Whiten could be on that bench for New South Wales. So if that's the case, then Frawley and Snyder will partner in the halves in round 13 anyway. But even if he doesn't, even if he comes back earlier, Fogs, he could come off the bench. They could bring him back through reserve grade. There's a few things to think about there. So it's not a clear-cut answer that Schneider's going to be out, but I understand if you think that way, that it could potentially happen. Elliott, let's talk about him. Do we think he's still a decent option? I think he still is. Obviously a little bit more expensive now, but again, we'll talk about him now at the price point in another video once we dive into everyone a little bit further, but just some general thoughts on him. Obviously did really well, and if he can continue that role, which he had last week and the week before, looks like there's building some type of consistency there, then he could definitely be a good option. Starling still on the interchange there, so is what it is for him. Let's hope that he can bounce back after a little bit of a lower week last week. All right, then the Roosters and the Parramatta Eels. This is a very fun game as well. This will be. Hopefully the Roosters can bounce back. Teddy's still got a great option. I think you could straight swap Pap to Teddy very seamlessly here and do well. Walker and Kiri becoming more of an option each and every week, but I'd still be holding off from him. Angus Crichton, if you think he's not going to make Origin, you can pick him up. And Connor Watson back into the 9 jersey with Verrills out, unfortunately. All right, Eels. We have Penasini still a hold. Dylan Brown in the 6 now, so I think you just keep hold of him after that decent score last week. And it's good that he's actually been stepping up against the better teams as well. If we're looking to the forwards pack there, we've got obviously Papali'i very close to a must-have. As they come over the origin period there, but they're obviously out in round 13. So at worst, you could wait till 14 and then definitely pick him up then, especially with a few of these bigger guys like Paps out and stuff like that. There's a little bit of money to go around. Obviously, Reedy won't be making, or he shouldn't be making Origin at this point with Grant and obviously like Ben Hunt probably ahead of him as well, potentially. But yeah, Reed could potentially become an option in round 14 as well. But definitely we'll work that out. Last game of the round, we got the Tigers and the Cowboys there. It's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be pretty close, actually, with how Tigers have been playing. Cowboys have been doing well also. Hastings still a good option. Obviously, a fair bit more expensive at the moment. Tuolangi, I think, is a hold, which we'll speak about him a little bit more. But yeah, just a really rough game for him. And you haven't seen that in the other games so far. So he should be able to bounce back, I think, in this one. And onto the Cowboys, or often Galway as well, I suppose we can speak about him. Is he going to be a keeper this year? Very, very interesting if that's going to be the case, because he continues to score amazingly well. Cowboys, so Drinky, we've got Paps out. Is Drinky an option with them playing round 13, for example? He's definitely an option, but his scoring's a little bit up and down. I understand why you'd be thinking about him, but we'll have a look at him a little bit further as well in the next video. Dearden Townsend, we've obviously got Cotter in the 10 jersey again. Looks like it is now, and the team is very much staying similar. Tamalolo, still a great option. Obviously, that lower score last week, he should bounce back from that. I think he'll be fine. Lukey, definitely not an option now, just gained too much in cash. And you got Hess and Griffin Neem on the bench there. That rounds out the team list video, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are going to Magic Round, that'll be sick. I know that the boys, the Storm boys, are doing a meetup, which will be fun. So you have to be in the Dead Diamond Society for that. If you don't know what that is, message me or look it up on Instagram, for example. But that's that. I hope you enjoy. Anyone who's going to Magic Round, have a great time. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll catch you in the next one.